Good evening. I'd like to formally welcome everyone, including members of the gallery and press, to this council meeting. My name is Councillor Owen Sharkey and I'm the Mayor of the Golden Plains Shire Council. Tonight, this council meeting is taking place within the well at Smearsdale and is open to the public. This meeting is being live streamed in accordance with council's governance rules, and I welcome any viewers joining us online. As the meeting is open to the public to attend, if the live stream ceases at any time, the meeting will continue. I do note that Councillor Kirby is attending the meeting online in accordance with council's governance rules. So first I will check, Councillor Kirby, that you can see and hear the meeting.
I can.
Thank you very much, and we can see and hear you. Okay, so thank you very much. Councillors, the councillors of Golden Plains Shire declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out the duties in the best interest of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of Golden Plains Shire. Golden Plains Shire spans the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar people. We acknowledge them as the traditional owners and custodians. Council pays its respects to both the Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar elders, past and present. Council extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Golden Plains Shire. Now we move on to apologies and absence of leave. I do note we do have an apology from Councillor Cook this evening. Is there any other requests for leave absence? No. Thank you. And I'll seek someone to confirm the minutes. We have a resolution before us to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 24th of March 2026 as circulated. Someone to move that. Moved Councillor Hayden, seconded Councillor Phelan. That's a vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Councillors, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? No declarations of conflict of interest, thank you. Now we'll move on to consider the formal agenda. We do, councillors, we do have one person who has registered to make a public submission tonight. After the introduction of the report, I will call the submitter forward for the presenter. I would ask and like to remind you, our speaking allocated time, you may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes, and ask you to respect the time limit, please. To assist the presenter with this, a tone will sound when your time has expired. 2 minutes will then be allocated for councillors to ask questions of the presenter. And I do note this is not a time for debate. Thank you. Councillors, page 6 of the agenda, item 7, authorisation of planning scheme amendment at Teesdale North East Growth Area. I will ask Mr Cameron Gray has requested to be heard in relation to this item, and I will now call on Mr Gray to speak. Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr Gray. If you'd like to just stand up anywhere there and sorry.
Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to be heard. I'm here mainly to acknowledge on behalf of our team the hard work that council officers put into the application over a number of years, and also to support the proposal that the officers have put to council today or tonight. I'd also like to just provide a little background and context to what we're seeking to do. We have been working on this proposal for a number of years, going back to the Teesdale structure plan itself. A few years ago, that structure plan, as council is no doubt aware, identifies a vision for Teesdale. It also details some of the considerations we have to work our way through with council officers and state government departments in order to complete the amendment. It's the structure plan, just for clarification, was adopted by council a number of years ago, and recommendations, including the settlement boundary, have the identification of this particular site for further development have now also been incorporated into the planning scheme as part of a previous planning scheme amendment. The Teesdale Structure Plan is also supported and linked to Council's recent Growing Places strategy. That strategy essentially leads Teesdale to develop in accordance with the structure plan and to look at further planning or supply only when the land in the Teesdale Structure Plan is exhausted. And that's because the Teesdale Structure Plan, the scheme of things, is a relatively recent document. It's been adopted by Council. As I alluded to, the plan provides not only direction for where the residential development should take place and the form it should take, but also details some of the specific matters that need to be addressed by the application. We think we've worked through all those matters to a fairly high degree of rigour with the council officers, Laura and Daniel, but also with the external authorities such as the CFA, EPA and others. Having completed all that, we think the proposal not only addresses Council's existing broader strategies and policies, but the specific requirements as they apply to this particular area. It's also worth noting that the proposal contributes significantly to the Golden Plains community via both the voluntary financial contribution to affordable housing and via a financial contribution to community. At the end of all this, we're looking to provide high quality residential opportunities in Teesdale, along with associated community benefits and contributions. And this meeting is obviously a key step to get to that outcome. Again, we thank council officers for the hard work they put into the proposal, and we're looking forward to the ministerial authorisation that will hopefully fall out of this meeting and the subsequent exhibition process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gray. I'll just see if there's councillors. Do we have any questions for the presentation? Take that as no, and thank you very much for your time and presentation. Thank you kindly. Councillors, is there any further questions on the item of officers? No further questions. I'll seek a mover. Councillor Gamble.
Yeah, I've tabled or circulated an alternative motion. I'll read it out. The council, 1, defer consideration of item 7.1, authorisation of planning scheme amendment C112 GPLA, Teesdale North East Growth Area, to a future council meeting. 2, requests a review of the Teesdale Structure Plan to determine areas appropriate for future rezoning. 3, receives a further report on the outcome of the review of the Teesdale Structure Plan prior to further consideration of planning scheme amendment C112 GPLA. Just outline the intent.
Just no, go on, sorry.
The intent is to defer rezoning of land for housing proposed with this amendment. Desired outcome is to reconsider the impact and implications of advancing housing in the Teesdale North East Growth Area and consider alternative options. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gamble. I'll seek a seconder to the motion. Councillor Kirby, seconding the motion. Councillor Gamble, speak to the motion.
Okay, thank you. I've lived in Teesdale for nearly 25 years and I care about the future and the development of the town. I don't want to see people living nearly 6 kilometres from the centre of Teesdale. The top end of the proposed land is 5.9 kilometres from the bridge. To put it in local perspective, Tuari Drive is less than 8 kilometres to the Banno Industrial Estate. Compared with farming land to the southeast, to the south of Teesdale, for example, it's only 1.1 kilometre from the bridge. I don't think it's good it's right or good planning to put so many new residents and houses on big blocks so far out of the main part of the town. The top residence will be several kilometres from the main road, even further to the school, shop, community hall, sports ground, etc. I'm not against the provision of more rezoned housing land around Teesdale, but this proposal does not adequately address, in my opinion, the social effects and the impacts of housing so far from the centre of the town. I quote the attached report on urban structure, layout and density, which lists criteria that require to be demonstrated. The criterion response section says, the amendment needs to be informed by the following. Does the proposed urban structure, layout and residential density support access to and use of public and active transport nodes and walkable neighbourhoods where feasible? Then it outlines the 6 hallmarks are. The second one is thriving local centres. And I don't think this development supports thriving local centres. Nor the third one, access to services and key destinations. I don't think it does that. Climate resilient locations. There's virtually no trees or shelter in the area. And high quality public realm and open spaces. There's the tip area that's being covered to be utilised in that regard.
Just point of order, Gavin, just with regards to speaking to your motion, you're currently debating the officer recommendation, but just try and keep what you're saying to your motion that you've put forward. Your motion is asking council to defer consideration, seek a review and a further report. If you could try to speak to your motion as opposed to speaking against the recommendation, but just speaking to you're not arguing against. You're speaking to. You haven't spoken to your motion yet.
The council, the response in regard to this requirement for is that the response is there is currently no public transport options in Teesdale, nor are there activity centres, key destinations or services in any meaningful sense. All of these are served by nearby Bannockburn. And further, policies in relation to 20-minute neighbourhoods are not achievable in this context. That is, the services, whether community, employment or social, are generally not available.
Point of order, Gavin. Councillor Gavin, point of order. You to speak to your motion. Your motion clearly asks for a deferral of this item. Another review.
Giving an example.
You're not speaking
of this motion.
Yes, Graham, I'm not going to sit here arguing. I'm not going to sit here arguing with you. You to speak to your motion that you've put forward. So far, you haven't spoken to your motion. And I'll just leave it at that. It's final warning to speak to your motion, please. It's you speak to your motion. A review.
This is I don't feel this is fair what you're saying, because I'm addressing the why we need to consider an alternative recommendation, and that is that the impacts of the current amendment are detrimental to people's lives in the future. It says that there are community, employment or social, these services are generally not available in the town and therefore access to them is redundant. And I contend that there's schools, there's halls, there's pharmacies, there's sports ground, there's playgrounds, there's BMX tracks, early learning centres. All of these things are in Teesdale, and they shouldn't be discounted as not important, that we don't have, that people will not have access to them easily. So
I'll allow another 30 seconds, Gavin. Sorry, Councillor Gamble.
Okay, I know there are reasons why this growth area is supported, but notably from the CFA, however, the agencies consulted only consider issues relating to their specialised fields. But councillors have a duty to consider and represent what's best for residents and future residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Kirby seconding the motion.
Thank you. I reserve my right of reply.
You, Councillor Kirby. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Robbins, thank you.
Thank you. I have two major issues with the alternative motion. The first is that the motion asks us to review the Teesdale structure plan, but I didn't actually hear any arguments that would justify departing from the structure plan that this council already endorsed. The second issue is that the proponent has relied in good faith on the current planning framework and invested efforts on that basis. It's just not fair to now seek to introduce delays, especially with a view to changing the structure plan to frustrate the amendment. The alternative motion takes a position that I find very difficult to justify, and I foreshadow a motion should this one.
Much, Councillor Robbins. Would any councillor like to speak for the motion? Any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Phelan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think that taking on some points that Councillor just made, I believe that this application has been made in true faith under the current Teesdale structure plan. So therefore, if we change the goalpost now, when they've done all this work, the officers have done a lot of work to get this planning scheme amendment up. And we all know this amendment's probably take 12 or 18 months to come through. And I think that altering the scheme now is just totally out of order. We don't know the cost to alter the scheme. It could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. This application has got to be treated on its merits under the current scheme and should be voted on, because that's the way we're going. If we're going to walk away from it now and try and change it in the middle of a development, we should be ridiculed out of this place.
Councillor Phelan, would any other councillors like to speak for the motion? Anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Kirby, you can speak now if you like.
Thank you. I concur with everything Councillor Gamble has said regarding his amendment, and I think that at the end of the day, he has taken into consideration of what the residents would face if they lived, kilometres away from the major town centre for this development. So I concur with Councillor Gamble. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kirby, and Councillor Gamble to sum up.
Okay, thank you. Well, I note officers are working within the parameters of council decisions, notably the Golden Plains Council decision to adopt the 1997 Teesdale structure plan and then again in 2021. In the light of this,
the 2021 wasn't just adopting the 1997 plan again. That's misleading.
It's not actually correct, Councillor Gamble.
That's my understanding of it. I had a read of the 2019 engagement with residents used in determining the Teesdale structure plan, and it didn't actually raise the issue of where and how residents prefer development to happen. There's major shortcomings with that engagement as far as I'm concerned. And I believe the weirdly shaped structural township plan that now exists for Teesdale, which does date back to the 70s apparently, and the 1997 structure plan, is the product of historical circumstance. And what we've inherited is basically carried on from that 1997 structure plan. I believe the rezoning proposal was tabled in the agenda will lead to poor outcomes, and I think there is solid planning reasoning why we shouldn't advance with this proposal without considering other options. And there have been many other development proposals concerning the surrounding Teesdale, and all of those potential landholders and developers have put a lot of time and money into it. But I really do think that we have to reconsider what's best for the long-term future, just in the shape of where people live around Teesdale. It's as simple as that. And this one, just look at the shape of it. It's way too out of town, and it doesn't meet those criteria from the state government's urban structure planning with the layout and density. So I think for that reason, I think we should take a step back and defer what we're doing and reconsider the options. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Gamble. I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour of the motion, raise your hands. And all those against. Motion is lax, and I'll come to Councillor Robbins, who foreshadowed.
Thank you. Just moving the recommendation.
Recommendation has been moved as read on page 6 of the agenda, and seeking a seconder, Councillor Phelan, second the motion. Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. This recommendation is to seek ministerial approval to prepare and exhibit a planning scheme for the rezoning of the subject land. The land is contained within the township boundary identified in the Teesdale Structure Plan, so it aligns with the Structure Plan's objectives of orderly growth and preventing sprawl. There's quite a bit of work that goes into preparing these amendments. The native vegetation's been assessed, the bushfire risk, stormwater management, etc. There are some areas of significant high value vegetation that have been excluded from the rezoning proposal so that vegetation can be protected. 2 of the parcels will be subject to an environmental audit overlay, which will require some investigation to be done before any homes are built there to assess and remediate any risks arising from previous land uses. There's been community engagement as part of the Teesdale Structure Plan, and there'll be another opportunity for engagement when the amendment is exhibited. Overall, I see no valid reason to refuse this proposal, so I'm happy to move that we seek approval from the Minister to prepare and exhibit an amendment. Thank you.
Councillor Robbins. Councillor Phelan.
Reserve my right.
Very much. Would any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillor Gamble speaking against the motion.
Yeah, just to reiterate my issue with having people living on large blocks so far away from the town centre. They're all, you know, they're halfway to Bannockburn virtually, and Teesdale's already sprawled out. So to see the map of it with this asymmetric development, it's land that I don't think is the best sort of land to live in to designate as housing in the first place, considering the it's actually much better agricultural land. The sheep country up there, well, in the lava flows with richer soils than down like the south and the west of Teesdale, where it's much more sandy and not so valuable agriculturally speaking. So yeah, I don't support it, and I'd like to put that on record. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Gamble. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Against the motion? Councillor Robbins to close the debate.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Councillors, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Those against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, item 7.2 on page 14 of the agenda. More than welcome to stick around if you like.
Thank you
very much.
Councillors, page 14 of the agenda, the draft community asset policy, community consultation. There is a recommendation there in front of us. Councillors, is there any questions? No questions. I'll seek a mover to recommendation or a motion. Councillor Robbins moving, Councillor Phelan seconding the motion. Councillor Robbins to speak.
Thank you. The draft community asset policy was out for public consultation during March, and what we've heard from the consultation is that there is some room for improvement in the policy, and there's also some confusion about what the policy does and what it applies to. We know that community initiated installations can have a lot of value for people in our shire, and it's never our aim to discourage those projects, but we also need to clear up any ambiguity about who looks after assets long term so they're not deteriorating and potentially causing safety risks. So this motion seeks to extend the consultation period and provide an opportunity for further feedback and discussion so we can get this right before the policy is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robbins. Councillor Phelan?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I think that, seconding Councillor Robbins's motion, I think this is just the opportunity to go back and tidy up some loose ends that probably were left from the initial consultation, and they'll come back to this municipality or this council for a final decision.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phelan. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? No councillor speaking again.
Yeah.
Councillor Campbell?
I'm not so much against it, but with caveats and concerns. But, I just have concerns that the insurance compliance requirements are getting unrealistic for smaller community groups. And I'm worried that we're setting the bar too high. As a council with a local government with many diverse and smaller community groups, and matching our towns, we want to encourage and enable to support these groups. I know there's, I do appreciate and I thank the council and the relevant officers for the more extensive consultation period or process that's been engaged in this policy development, and appreciate the extended extra 3 weeks for consultation. So I expect the community to work on that, and recognising also that there were 6 main submissions, but most of them represented groups with a larger group of people behind them. So, and there's a lot of large numbers of engaged community members amongst those groups that presented submissions this far to council. So I'm concerned that there is somewhat of a shifting of accountability to onto these groups. And
point of order, Councillor Campbell. We're just appreciating we're speaking to the motion. We're not speaking about the specifics. This item's going back out for community consultation for those reasons, but actually speaking to points on the policy itself. What you like or not is not to the motion. If you could just keep it to the motion.
Well, I think these are things that the community members need to think about. And I've already
you're giving your own personal opinion.
No,
regarding this community consultation.
I'm recognising that there's somewhat of a conflict of interests involved in this policy development, and community needs to appreciate that. But I'll also say that council's role is to support community groups, and it could be somewhat of a false economy for if we don't have these community groups that do good work and will be disinclined to if they feel that there's too much risk and costs involved. So I expect there to be more submissions coming back about this draft policy.
Councillor Campbell, would anyone like to speak against the motion? There being no one speaking against the motion, I will put it to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Okay. Item 7.3, cat reclaim rates and options, page 18 of the agenda. Councillors, are there any questions? No questions. I will seek a mover. Councillor Gamble moving the recommendation.
Yep.
Very much. I'll seek a seconder to the recommendation. There being no seconder, motion lapse. Motion has elapsed. Councillors, I'll seek another mover to.
I'll move a motion that the status quo remains. I think that the way that I read this and what I heard last week, I think that we're becoming. I'll move it. So I'll get a seconder.
Just to clarify what you're moving then, Kik, would you, just the recommendation there, point number 1, that we note the report provided on what council can do to improve CAT reclaim rates as requested at the November 2025 council meeting. Happy to move that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So this is an item that we as councillors asked officers to do. It has to come back to the council meeting. So it'd probably be more right just to note it. Are you happy with that, Councillor Phelan? So councillors, Councillor Phelan is moving point 1 of the recommendation that we note the report. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Hayden seconding the motion. Councillor Phelan to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the report we've received, that we've read it and we've looked over it, and I think that if we don't watch ourselves, we'll become a dormitory for people who are not looking after their own animals. And I think this is a burden on the council. And I think that we're going to lose something like, if this strategy went ahead, something like $30,000 a year. And at this point in time, we can't afford that. And I think it's up to cat or pet owners to be responsible for their own pets and not the burden on the ratepayers to subsidise them. And that's why I move this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phelan. Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Phelan. I can't support the recommendation as it stands with point 2. I think while well-intentioned, free first-year registration doesn't actually address the core issue, which is the large number of unregistered, unmicrochipped and semi-owned cats who are least likely to be at risks becoming a feel-good measure rather than a meaningful solution. It also, I think, raises a fairness issue with many responsible pet owners already doing the right thing, and it doesn't really support or recognise that. I believe if we genuinely want to improve reclaim rates, we should be focusing on what actually works and long-term sustainable solutions, which is microchipping, desexing and targeting community support, especially for high-risk groups rather than just everybody. These options are in the report and I think they're likely to have far greater impact. So for me, including point 2 in it doesn't really go far enough and I don't believe it's the right priority. So I support Councillor Phelan in going back to the report to see what we can do better.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hayden. Would anyone like to speak against the motion?
Yes.
Councillor Gamble.
Yeah, I supported this recommendation in full because I'd like to thank the officers for all the work they've done and thought they've put into it and research, seminars attended and consultations they've engaged in with outside expert groups and relating it to the Victorian policy, and then providing us with an excellent briefing report which provided clarity, data and options to be considered. I think there was 8 or 9 of them. They're in the agenda. Basically to try and achieve better pet reclaim outcomes, because it's terrible that the cats are kind of just like left in the environment. Not reclaimed as pets to the extent they should be. I think our local government, unfortunately, is not able to introduce things that other councils can do, like regulate nighttime curfew, for example, despite the terrible damage cats do loose in the environment, not just feral, and the impact it has on our world unique fauna and irreplaceable diversity. All local governments, particularly rural and peri-urban ones such as ours, with diminishing biodiversity, local extinctions, rate-capped financial stresses, need support from state government. I've proposed, look, I'll say with I agree with option 3. It's considered the best way forward for Golden Plains Shire to increase reclaim rights. The money forfeited on 1 year of rego will be picked up with having increased regos in the future and increasing the likelihood of responsible ownership. So to say that it's going to cost us, I think that's disingenuous, because it gets more pet owners into the system where their animals can be tracked down, where they can be tracked down, and matching and more likely to be responsible for the future. It allows officers to reunite lost cats with their owners. I also note the additional proposed communications work around this new pet registration. This is an initiative that can spur on a lot of goodwill in the community, and also to get across the message of various messages regarding responsible pet ownership. It will provide a positive and consciousness raising in itself about positive actions council is taking and encouragement for responsible pet ownership. I don't want to throw that out, which this motion does, because I think it's a good one, and I thought we had agreement, but yeah, unfortunately it doesn't seem that way.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gamble. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. I was really on the fence about the proposal for free first year registration. I think everyone in this chamber supports responsible pet ownership, and we all want to encourage microchipping, desexing and registration. But the question is whether this initiative actually achieves behaviour change, and I'm not convinced that it does. We know a lot of cats that are impounded aren't reclaimed, and that's a problem statewide, not just in Golden Plains. But we don't know how many of those cats are unowned. Unowned cats are unlikely to be converted to desexed, microchipped, registered cats as a result of the free first year registration initiative. We know that the initiative would have an impact to revenue, and we don't know how much of that would be recovered through an increase in ongoing registrations and a decrease in impoundment costs. Those benefits are plausible, but they're not able to be quantified. So I agree with noting the report and not implementing the initiative of free first year registration. Thank you.
Councillor Robbins. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? For the motion? Councillor Phelan, I'm asking you to close the debate.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think that I'll listen to what Councillor Gamble has to say, and I think that the problem that we have is that right now we haven't got responsible pet ownership, and this is only going to make it worse. If they don't have to pay for anything, the animals we've not looked after, and they'll be let roam. And I think that we've got to make sure that people, if they have pets, they've got to look after them properly, or don't have them. And we can't expect responsible pet owners to subsidise people that are not doing the right thing.
All right, Councillor Phelan. Councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Item 7.4, Councillor Sexual Harassment Policy. Councillors, page 23 of the agenda. And we have a recommendation there in front of us. Councillors, are there any questions? There's no questions. I'll seek a mover to a motion. Moving the motion, Councillor Hayden, and seconding the motion, Councillor Robbins. Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
This is a no-brainer. I fully support this policy. A zero tolerance approach to sexual harassment is not optional, it is essential. Creating a safe, respectful and accountable workplace reinforces the minimum standard that we need to stand by as councillors. We're role models, and the standard we set here shapes the culture of the entire organisation. So adopting this policy today sends a very clear message that respect, safety and accountability are non-negotiable, and I'm very pleased to support this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. Not much to add to what Councillor Hayden said, but this update just brings the policy up to date with best practice standards and the model code of conduct. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robbins. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? No one speaking against the motion. I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Item 7.5, Quarterly Advocacy Report, Quarter 3, page 25 of the agenda. And we have a recommendation there in front of us, councillors. Are there any questions? No questions. I'll seek a mover. Moving the motion, Councillor Robbins, and seconding the motion, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. This is a new report coming to council that really highlights something that often isn't visible to the public, the amount of work that goes into advocacy on behalf of the Shire. A significant part of our role, led by the Mayor and CEO, is influencing outcomes beyond the direct control of the decision makers in this group, whether that's state or federal investment, regulatory settings, or regional priorities. Through all of our regional alliances, G21 for the Geelong region, Greater Ballarat Alliance, and peri-urban councils, we're reinforcing consistent core priorities: better transport connections, safer roads, digital connectivity, and infrastructure to. The report highlights some of the changes we've been able to make for the safety of school children in Teesdale, including new electronic school speed sign and works to upgrade 8 bus stops. Not every meeting or submission leads to an immediate outcome, but being present and consistent is how we can secure investment and change to benefit our Shire. So I'm very happy to receive this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robbins. Councillor Gamble, seconding the motion.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Robbins, for the summary. I'd like to thank the Council Leadership Group for their advocacy work on behalf of the residents, and also the value of bringing this back to Council in the form of a report. I think that provides transparency to the community and indicates the extra effort and work that the Leadership Group is doing that's not always seen by community, and sometimes not even by our councillors and other staff perhaps, or some staff. We have, as a council, we have significant needs, and we do rely heavily on grant funding and help from state and federal government, and working together with these other groups for advocating is obviously providing more power and stronger advocacy potential and outcomes. So yeah, thank you for the work and for the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gamble. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? No one speaking against the motion. I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried. Item 7.6, Geelong Bellarine Peninsula and Bannockburn bus review. Council submission. I'll refer to page 29 of the agenda. Councillors, are there any questions? Questions? I'll seek a mover. Moving a recommendation, Councillor Hayden, and seconding the motion, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Hayden.
Thank you. Yes, I strongly support this submission. This is exactly the kind of advocacy that our community needs, focusing on the reality of how people in Golden Plains actually live and move. Right now, too many of our residents are dealing with limited, infrequent, poorly connected or no public transport. And that has got really real consequences for access to work, education, healthcare and social connection. As a mum to 5 kids growing up in Imberley, I know that, that it's really impacted our family. This submission clearly identifies the problem, but importantly, it also outlines some real solutions. We need more frequent services, better connections between townships, improved infrastructure and flexible transport options for lower density areas. What stands out to me is the equity lens. We know that people without access to a car, particularly those young people, teenagers, older residents and low income households, are disproportionately impacted. So improving public transport is not just about convenience, it's about fairness and inclusion. And it's also about our future with significant population growth forecast, particularly in Bannockburn. We cannot continue to rely on car dependency. We need to be planning now for a more connected and sustainable community, something we've been asking for years. So this submission sends a really strong message to the state government that our region is growing, our needs are clear and our community expects better. So I am very, very pleased to support this.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hayden. Well said. Thank you, Councillor Gamble.
Yeah, once again, I'd like to thank the CEO and the officers for making this submission. I note that there are 84 submissions from Teesdale alone for a Bannockburn bus service review. So, and 265 from Bannockburn and 39 from Inverleigh. It's a really strong response and shows that it is an important issue in the community. And likewise, thank those community members who bothered to make those responses. Recent political and military international events have made the case for improved public and alternative transport options to private car travel all the more stronger. So it'll be great to see some action on this in this area. It's been left since COVID, when we did actually have a trial, but that was interrupted with the COVID, or the outcomes interrupted with COVID. But we really do need better transport, particularly for those outer towns such as Teesdale, Inverleigh and Bannockburn itself, with all the kids there that want to get into town for a whole lot of reasons you can imagine, then it's really important. I also note that anecdotally, I know that there are families that move out, enjoy the country life with their kids for quite a while, but as you get older, teenagers, my experience, it might be a bit more than the girls do it more, that they want to get back into town more, and that can often result in families feeling just too much pressure with all the running around to want to get back into, to move back into Geelong. If there was just a better service from Bannockburn, my anecdotal experience, that would, not personal, but I think that would alleviate a lot of the pressures for the people who live in the surrounding towns as well, with that transport vacuum or it's not adequate at the moment. So hopefully this will help get some results. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Campbell. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? No one speaking against the motion. I will put it to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Councillors, item 7.7, page 31 of the agenda. I'll move straight to a mover on this one. Moving the motion. Councillor Hayden, seconding the motion. Councillor Robbins. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, just the informal meetings for the councillors for this month. I myself had the privilege of attending two Anzac Day services in Inverleigh this year. It was a deeply moving morning, made even more special by the involvement of local school children from Inverleigh Primary who spoke with such clarity, respect and heart. But I think the particularly powerful moment, which Councillor Sharkey and myself were speaking about earlier, because he also heard it, was the reading of a 109-year-old letter written by a young soldier from our community who was killed just weeks after writing it. Hearing his words brought history into the present in a way that was both humbling and unforgettable. And looking around during the service, I could see that many of us, including myself, were moved to tears. It was a really beautiful reminder of the strength of our wonderful rural communities, the importance of remembrance, particularly now, and the role we all play in keeping these stories alive. So a really beautiful morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. On Anzac Day, I attended ceremonies in both Smearsdale and Haddon. The 10 a.m. service at the Smearsdale War Memorial was a simple but meaningful ceremony. There was a reading by the school captains of Wodialloc Primary School Smearsdale campus and a story of a local veteran who lost his life in World War I, shared by a family member. The 11 a.m. service at the Haddon Memorial Cenotaph featured the release of pigeons and the procession of children carrying white crosses as a tribute to those who made the supreme sacrifice. Following that service, I joined residents at the Haddon Community and Learning Centre, where I was able to have a number of informal conversations about practical issues around Haddon, including rubbish dumping, potholes and child safety. I attended the launch of the historic audio tours of Linton at the Community Hub, which was supported through a council community strengthening grant. This project brings local history to life in such an accessible way. There are 3 tours, walking one focused on the main street and 2 others which take you a bit further afield. The main street is packed with history and there's a story behind practically every building. So I'd really encourage anyone interested to check it out using the GuideMate app or get in touch with the Historic Society to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you much, Councillor Robbins. Now the councillors like to speak to the delegates report. So Gamble.
Yeah, thank you. I attended ANZAC services at Teesdale, Shelford and Inverleigh. The Teesdale and Shelford ones were very well attended, relatively to normal attendances. And so MP Bev MacArthur for Western Victoria talked at Teesdale about and Shelford about the personal impact visiting the fields of Flanders, Semel, the Solomon, Fromelles. There over 5,500 Australians died in less than 24 hours. So yeah, I also attended the service with Councillor Hayden, who laid the beautiful wreath provided by Golden Plains Shire, and I'd like to thank the officers who all did this. It was much appreciated by the community that were represented at these events. As well as catching up with and meeting a lot of people, I got talking to a Lethbridge cub and father at Inverleigh, where it's good to hear they have 38 members now, which is a great recovery from when I was the sole leader and we had less than 10 at the lowest point. Additionally, this month I attended Teesdale Community Plan launch, held outdoors at the unique and very special Turtle Pavilion. I thank Officer Vandenham and non-profit training mentor Lisa Jennings, who attended the launch and were invaluable in helping with the process and promotion of not just the Teesdale Community Plan, but working lots of others. With the Teesdale Plan, 160 people made submissions. It's really good. And the 6 major priorities for the community plan are road safety advocacy, a multi-use track to Bannockburn. That's the one that's been on the list for over 15 years. Chinaman's Lagoon facelift, a Turtle Bend upgrade, and Teesdale Hall minor upgrades and event hosting. And lastly, public transport advocacy. For the record, I didn't attend the community forum when these projects were prioritised. Just mentioning on the road safety advocacy, the Council and Department of Transport and Planning have worked collaboratively with Teesdale residents to implement numerous improvements to school bus stops, reduce speed limits, there's a new flashing light signage, which Councillor Robbins mentioned, for the 40km/h school zone. Noting that nearly all of the 250 plus students at Teesdale Primary School crossed the road, but also noting a large amount of prep to 12 students coming back from Geelong after 4 p.m. I also attended a park run, and with the great weather, cycling-wise anyway, the Banno Bunchy Road, Gordon Energy Winchelsea as part of its weekly rides. Thank you.
Thank you much, Councillor Gamble. Any other councillors like to speak to the delegates report? Finish with another busy month, and I think those couple of last reports are really well put together by the CEO with regards to that advocacy, and yeah, it's really important to see them come out in front of the community, because there is a lot of work that happens behind the scenes in the lead up to a state election. So it's there is a lot of work being done on that front. With G21, then we are meeting. State election is the #1 priority there, and #1 discussion amongst G21 members. We met last Friday and put together everything with our advocacy is being put together there now, and it'll be all sort of waiting for this budget to come out, and then start hammering our messages. Myself and the Mayor of Colac and Mayor of Surf Coast also did a bit of publicity there with regards to Colac also wanting better train services, and tying into that for all the regional councils. So some great work done by G21 on that front. Had the pleasure of meeting with Catherine King, local member up the north, and got to meet up there to see the final works on the Mount Mercer Dereel Road, which is fantastic piece of work that's been done there. Also, we had a visit by the Government Grants Commission. The fantastic presentation that was put in front of us, yeah, I must admit on a personal front that I had no appreciation for the level of detail that goes into those federal assistance grants by the government and how detailed they are. It's definitely not a case of just throwing money. The mathematical formula behind the scenes is quite unbelievable to where those dollars end up going and the reasons and rationales. It's yeah, quite mind blowing actually. As something as a councillor of 10 years, only learning how detailed that now was quite amazing. So they're doing some fantastic work, and we'll keep advocating for more money on that front. Also, the local area commander commissioner came out. Brad Hall came out and gave us myself and the CEO a bit of an update on police matters in the area. I did mention to Brad Hall it'd be good to get him to come to a briefing day. We used to do that a couple of terms ago, get a little bit of an update and a little bit of a touch base with him and what's going on and around the area. Fortunate enough that, as he also said there, we are one of the safest regions in Victoria. So, but that's not to say that things aren't happening there. So, I've asked him to come back to a briefing day and give us a little bit of an update there. Also, just piggybacking some of the words of Councillor Hayden, I was fortunate enough to attend the dawn service at Bannockburn and another service in Meredith, and without doubt the highlight of that was the dawn service in Bannockburn. There's a massive amount of effort that's put into getting that there, huge turnout, but the letter that was read out by a local Shelford family, Peter Barth was the chap that spoke on that and read out that letter, and it was a very simple message, or a simple letter from a soldier sending it back to his mother. And the unfortunate thing was he passed away a few weeks after the letter was written. So it was very, very touching, and it's great to see services like that on a really personal front. So it was a great attendance by those in Bannockburn and those in Meredith. So it's nice to see all councillors get round to all of those things, and then that ties us up for April, and we look forward to May.
I'd just like to say, Mr Mayor, that I was unable to attend Smallsdale Haddon on Anzac Day, but I had a family thing, and I attended the dawn service in Ballarat, and the Archvicar Committee had a commemoration day there, and they honoured New Zealanders, soldiers that were killed in the First World War, and my grandfather lost 4 brothers in that war. And I was invited along to the ceremony and laid a wreath on behalf of our family. It was a very touching and big day, and even although they were born, I was born 35 years after they died, it was very emotional, the fact that 4 boys lost their lives.
How many people attended that one? How many people attended that one?
Oh, it would have been 2,500.
Thanks very much, Councillor Phelan. Councillors, I'll put that to a vote that we council note the delegates' report and informal meetings of councillors for the past month. All those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried. Item 7.8 on page 33 of the agenda. I might just revert to the CEO, and appreciating the last few items have been to the CEO. I might just ask you to.
Yep. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So I guess this month really just continuing to highlight across the organisation the focus on customer experience. This month we've included a few examples of some of the positive customer feedback that we've been receiving, and just, so want to acknowledge all of the work by councillors and staff in supporting the community. I also touch in there and cover off on some of the great capital works program outcomes. A number in the report are smaller, but I think often we focus a lot on the bigger projects, forget that sometimes a lot of these small projects make huge impacts for people. But a project that's not in there, and while we're in Smartsdale tonight, that I can probably include next month, is the amazing work by the team on the netball court here in Smartsdale. Which, if it isn't quite yet opened, it was very close to, and it's been a challenging project, but when you see the outcome, it's been an amazing investment by council and the state government. And then finally, just to highlight, and Councillor Gamble did touch on it, but just the great outcomes that we continue to see with the community planning program, with 4 of those being launched and now available via our council website.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions? No questions. I'll seek a mover to the recommendation. Councillor Robbins moving, Councillor Gamble seconding the motion. Councillor Robbins.
Thank you. Just wanted to pull out a few highlights from the report. The seal works have been completed at the Haddon School car park, which was great to see when I parked in front of the school at Anzac Day. And the rail trail bridge upgrade at Linton also looks fantastic. I checked it out a few weeks ago. The supports underneath are all still timber, but there's a new fibre composite surface and a new handrail. And I've heard a few excited comments from people in the community about it as well. So I'm not the only one raving about it. I haven't seen the new lines painted on the netball courts yet, but I'm excited to see them next time I'm at the rec centre later in the week. And the reduction in outstanding customer requests is really great to see as well, and just to see that timeliness of response keep improving. So I hope residents are able to see that we are focusing on what matters to them. Thank you.
Very much. Councillor Robbins, Councillor Gamble.
Yeah, I'll reinforce that. There was a highlight I was going to mention was the customer requests completion rates, really good. And also I was going to mention the council work on design and construction of a pedestrian refuge at the general store area in Teesdale is coming along, and hopefully an updated design will be completed soon for then further consultation.
Much. Councillor Gamble, will I speak against the motion? No, speaking against the motion, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. And we have no notices of motions, no petitions, no urgent business, and no confidential reports for decision. That being no further items of business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:03 p.m. and thank everyone for